Once upon a time, there were two lifelong friends named Cynthia and Daniela. Their bond was unbreakable, forged through shared laughter and dreams. Their bond was so strong that they were mistaken for sisters. They ate, played, and shared jokes together. However, their paths diverged as they grew older. Cynthia's family was struck by tragedy which took away her comfortable life, while Daniela's life flourished. Despite their near unbreakable bond, jealousy festered in Cynthia's heart as she watched Daniela's life unfold with envy. Daniela prospered in all her ways, but this did not prevent her from isolating herself from Cynthia. Nevertheless, Cynthia hated her because Daniela had everything that she desired. As time passed, both women grew up to be very beautiful. Daniela, adorned in a colorful traditional cloth, married a very wealthy man, but Cynthia married a humble man. Her wedding ceremony was very simple as compared to her friends. This situation worsened her hatred for Daniela. She thought to herself, "Why is everything going against me? Daniela has everything I desire. It's not like she's more beautiful than I am. I know what to do. It won't stay like this forever." Months went by and both friends gave birth to beautiful baby girls on the same auspicious day. On that day, both of their husbands were working, so they were assisted by neighbors to the nearest hospital. Their faces beamed with smile as they lay in the hospital bed and waited for their babies to be brought to them. Fate wove a tangled web of love and resentment. On that fateful day at the hospital, Cynthia saw a friend of hers who was a nurse. Her name, Elsie. Elsie approached Cynthia to congratulate her for welcoming her first child. As she approached, Cynthia devised a plan. She asked Nurse Elsie for a favor, reminding her of a favor she once promised she'd return. Nurse Elsie acquiesced to switching the babies of Cynthia and Daniela as Cynthia had requested. As the children grew older, Cynthia, consumed by bitterness, showered Daniela's daughter, Emerald, with affection while harboring disdain for her own daughter, Christy. Christy's father hated how Cynthia maltreated their daughter. One day, as both Cynthia and Daniela's husbands were on their way back home from a business trip, they met an accident which unfortunately led to their demise. The two friends mourned their husbands in pain. Christy and Emerald grew up to be adorable, beautiful ladies, and they were loved wherever they went. Christy, however, grew up under the weight of her mother's scorn, her every action met with disapproval. Meanwhile, Emerald basked in Cynthia's adoration. Cynthia praised Emerald before Daniela and tarnished Christy's image at the same time whenever she had the chance. Daniela never understood her friend's behavior and felt uncomfortable with the utterances of her friend. Anytime she tried to defend Christy, it ended in an altercation between them. One day, as Christy went on an errand, she stumbled and fell and was hurt. This incident caused her delay in getting back home. She was assisted home by a young man. His name, Kevin. Kevin was a wealthy businessman who had come to town for business. He heard Christy call for help and approached to help. As soon as Cynthia saw her daughter in the company of the young man, she rained insults on her and humiliated her before her guest. Christy was quiet throughout while Kevin defended her. After Kevin had left, she punished Christy without remorse. Some weeks passed and Cynthia noticed Kevin's interest in Christy as she caught them spending time together, but before he could make his intentions known to Christy, he mysteriously disappeared. One fine afternoon, when Christy and Emerald were 24 years old, they were approached by a man. A very fine-looking young man who was searching for a wife. Jake was his name. He appreciated how beautiful they both were, but he was most especially interested in Christy and how humble she was. After speaking with the two ladies, Jake left. A week later, Jake, who had fallen helplessly in love with Christy, came in search of her, but upon setting his eyes on her, he detested her and disappeared from her life. Christy was heartbroken to witness how another man had disappeared from her life again. She wondered why Jake detested her all of a sudden and never wanted to see her again like Kevin. She then visited a man of God who advised her to pray without ceasing. Christy started praying as the pastor had advised. It turned out that any man who would fall in love with Christy would see the face of a lion instead of a woman. The lion face was what had scared the men away. Cynthia, upon realizing how beautiful her daughter had grown, bewitched her daughter so no one would marry her. Christy cried her eyes out for several weeks. She couldn't comprehend her misfortunes. Some few months later, Emerald, basking in joy, came to Christy to invite her for her marriage ceremony. Christy was shocked to know that Emerald was getting married. "Why didn't you tell me you were seeing someone?" she asked. Emerald responded, "What are you talking about? But I told your mother about it few months ago. I came to look for you, but your mother told me you were not around, and I left the message with her to be extended to you. I told her Jake had asked for my hand in marriage." "Jake?" she retorted. Emerald responded in the affirmative. Months ago, after Jake disappeared from Christy's life, he approached Emerald for marriage and she accepted. Christy did not utter a word about her encounter with Jake. After Emerald had left, Christy sobbed for a while but paused to think about why her mother hated her so much. She needed answers but found none. She could not comprehend the reason for her mother's hatred towards her. Christy dried her tears and comforted herself with prayers. Soon afterwards, she met and befriended a humble young man called John. John was handsome, but had a curse which could only be broken when he finds true love. He was the king of the nearby town, and his kingdom was comparable to no other kingdom. He was a blind man seeking for a wife, a woman who would genuinely love him and lift the curse of blindness away. As time went by, they became fond of each other, and their friendship blossomed into love. Christy did not care if this humble man was blind. All she knew and understood was that she had fallen in love. She was so excited to have found someone she could confide in and one who understood her because they'd been through similar ordeals. John had been rejected by so many women because of his curse, and the ones who decided to stay were only interested in his money. John couldn't see the lion face because he was blind. She introduced him to her mother, but this time around, despite her mother's initial reservations, she welcomed John into their lives, unaware of his true identity as a king of the richest kingdom. Because she thought John was poor and blind, she accepted him for Cynthia, unbeknown to her what fate had in store for her. Christy extended an invitation to Daniela and her daughter for the wedding. On the day of the ceremony, royalties adorned in expensive, beautiful, and colorful attires graced the occasion. John had an entourage who accompanied him to perform the rituals. Upon their arrival, it was discovered that John was the king of the nearby town. While Christy was shocked to discover the truth, Cynthia, on the other hand, was pained to discover that Christy was about to marry a man with a higher status and wealthier than Emerald's husband. She then devised a plan to destroy her marriage. Immediately after the marriage rites, John's eyes were opened, and for the first time, he could see his wife, the woman who genuinely loved him. Christy's bewitchment was reversed because of her constant prayers to God. A week after the marriage, after Cynthia had visited the shrine, she paid a visit to Christy, who was so happy in her marital home. Christy was alone and sleeping in her room when Cynthia came around. The guards informed Christy of her mother's presence. She welcomed her mother with a smile, but Cynthia never reciprocated. As she offered her mother a seat, she went to the kitchen to bring her some juice only for Cynthia to blow the mixed concoction on Christy's chair. After she was served the drink and Christy had sat down, she fabricated an excuse and immediately left in a hurry so Christy would not escort her. Soon afterwards, she met Nurse Elsie, who was at the hospital when she gave birth and the one who switched the babies. After they had conversed for a while, Nurse Elsie made a confession. "Thank God I did not do what you asked of me at the hospital some years ago. I am so happy that I made the right decision, because if not, you wouldn't be the mother-in-law of the richest king. Christy has found a wonderful man who will cherish her. You are indeed the luckiest mother in this world." This revelation shocked Cynthia to her bones. She did not understand what Nurse Elsie said. "What are you saying?" she asked. It was revealed that 24 years ago, when Cynthia asked Nurse Elsie to switch the two babies, she did not do what was asked of her. Nurse Elsie had been a victim of such wickedness when she was a baby, and the incident destroyed her parents' marriage. She did not want to cause a breakup in another family's home. Confronted with the truth, Cynthia grappled with overwhelming guilt and remorse, realizing the depth of her cruelty towards her own daughter. She realized she had been hating and maltreating her own daughter her entire life, all because she was jealous of Daniela and wanted to see her daughter live the life she couldn't experience at the expense of her friend's daughter. She immediately went blind because of Christy's prayers. Her initial plot to make Christy blind backfired on her. Cynthia apologized to her daughter for all the harm she had caused her and asked her daughter for forgiveness. Christy, without hesitation, forgave her mother because she did not want to live her entire life resenting her mother. The Word of God says we should forgive those who wrong us, and that's exactly what she did. Daniela heard of Cynthia's atrocities and decided to dissociate herself from her longtime friend. In the end, love conquered all. Christy and John's bond grew stronger, and they have birthed 2 children. Cynthia, humbled by her mistakes, vowed to make amends and cherish the daughter she had once despised.